Chapter 8. Something stepped on a little stick. As soon as the twig cracked, my eyes snapped open and I was wide awake. I held my breath and kept as still as I could. Whatever it was that was sneaking up on me knew I'd woke up, because it stopped moving and kept as still as it could, too. Even though my head was still under my blanket, I could feel two eyes staring at me real hard. And I knew these weren't critters. These eyes made the hair on the back of my neck rise up the way only human being eyes can do. Without wiggling or jiggling around too much under my blanket, I got my fingers wrapped around my jackknife right when I was ready to push the covers off me and start running or stabbing. Whoever it was that had been watching jumped right on top of me. I was as wrapped as a roach under a dish rag. I tried to guess the exact spot that the person hard was at, then pulled my knife back in. A voice said, "If you ain't a kid called Bud from home, I'm real sorry for jumping on you like this." It was Bugs! When I tried to talk, it felt like I had to suck all the air out of Flint. I finally got breathing right and said, "Doggone it, Bugs. It is me. You nearly scared me to death." He got off of me and I threw the blanket over to the side. "You don't know how lucky you are. I was just about fixing to stab you in the heart." Bugs looked like he knew he'd had a real close call. He said, "I'm sorry, bud. I didn't mean to scare you, but everyone knows how you like to sleep with that knife open, so I figured I'd best grab a hold of you so you wouldn't wake up slicing nobody." Shucks. Even though it was Bugs who'd come real close to getting his heart poked, I was the one who was still having trouble catching my breath. I asked, "How come you're back at the home?" But before he had a chance to answer, I knew. "You're on the lam." Bugs said, "Yep. I'm going back to righting the rows. When I heard about you beating that kid up so bad that he had to take off, I figured it was time for me to get going too. I thought you might be hanging around the library, so I came down to see if you wanted to go with me. Where are you heading?" "There's always fruits to be picked out west. I heard you can make enough money to get by out there. There's supposed to be a train leaving sometime tomorrow. Did you really beat that kid up in the foster home?" I said, "Uh-huh. We kind of had a fight." How long does it take to get out west?" Bugs said, "Depends on how many trains you got to hop." Was he really 2 years older than you?" "Mm-hmm. He was 12. Is it fun to hop a train?" "Some of the time it is, some of the time it's scary." "We heard he was kind of big too. Was he?" I said, "He was pretty big. I can't see how we can hop on a train. They look like they're moving pretty doggone fast." Bug said, "Most of the time you don't hop on them when they're going fast. Most of the times you try to climb on them when they're still sitting in the train yard." "Did the guy cry after you whooped him?" "Well, kind of. He looked real scared then told his mama to keep me away from him. They even said I was a hoodlum." Will will we be sleeping on the train and everything?" "Sure we will. Some of the time the train don't stop for 2 or 3 days." Man, I always try to tell people that just because someone's skinny don't mean they can't fight. You're a hero now, bud." "Nah, I didn't really do nothing much." "Well, how about the toilet? How are we going to use the toilet if the train doesn't stop?" Bugs, you kind of lean out the door and go. "When the train is still moving? Yeah, you get a real nice breeze." "Oh man, that sounds great. Count me in. I can't wait." Bugs spit a big glob of slop in his hands and said, "I knew I could depend on you, bud." I spit on the big glob in my hand and said, "We're for brothers forever, Bugs." We slapped our hands together as hard as we could and got our slops mixed up real good, then waved them in the air so they dry. Now it's official. I finally had a brother. Bugs said we'd go down to the mission. There's bound to be someone there that knows about where we can hop this train. Then we'll be on the lam together. We found out we'd have to go to a city called Hooperville, just outside of Flint. The only trouble was nobody knew exactly where Hooperville was. It was dark before we found out the right direction. I had never heard of a city that was so doggone hard to find. We walked on a trail through some woods that run right up against a threaded creek. We could tell that they were getting close to Hooperville because we heard somebody playing a mouth organ, and the smell of food cooking was getting stronger. We kept walking in the direction that the sky was glowing with orangish light. When we could hear the music real clear and folks talking to each other and the sounds of sticks crackling in the fire, we started cutting through the trees. That way we could peek into Hooperville first. We looked out from behind a big tree and saw a big wind, or even 2 or 3 big wolves huffing and puffing real hard, could blow Hooperville into the next county. There was a bunch of nuts and shacks thrown together of pieces and boxes and wood and cloth. The Amos's shed would have looked like a real fancy house out here. Like a real fancy house here. Right near our tree was the big fire that had been lighting up the sky. It looked like 100 people were sitting around it, watching things burn or waiting for the food cooking in 3 big pots set up in the fire. There were 2 littler fires burning in Hooperville. One had a pot that was big enough to boil a whole person in it. A man was stirring things in the pot with a big stick, and he raised the stick up where he'd pull some breeches or a shirt out of it and pass it to the white man who was hanging the clothes on a line to dry. There was a mountain of clothes on the ground next to him waiting for their turn. The other fire in the Hooperville was real small. It was off to the side by itself. There were 5 white people sitting in the fire, at this fire. 2 kids, a man and a woman holding a little wrapped up baby. The baby sounded like all those new sick babies at the home. It was coughing like it was a half-dead little animal. Bugs whispered, "Shoot, say no city. This is just another cardboard jungle." "A what?" "A cardboard jungle. Somewhere where you can get off the train and clean up and get something to eat without cops chasing you out of town." Okay, guys, you read the rest of the chapter and then you answer the questions. Okay?